Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about electricity generation, this whole idea of climate change and the involvement of the globalists in the climate change drama and propaganda. But starting with coal first, there's a big push to stop using coal for electricity generation. Now, this doesn't appear to apply to China or India or Africa. So what's the use of the Western world going to alternative sources of power, moving away from coal and gas and oil and that sort of thing? What's the point of it if China and India and Africa can all, and some other countries can all still use it? Now, China's already the biggest polluter in the world. The United States and India are jostling for sort of second place on the ladder there, and then there's really a bunch of third world sort of countries, but really if unless all the countries of the world, all the places of the world uniformly apply climate change controls, then nothing's going to change. You're just moving the deck chairs around. The Western world reduces its so-called pollution footprint, but at exactly the same time, China and India and Africa are increasing theirs at a greater rate than the West could reduce their pollution footprint. So it's patently absurd to go down this path. It's just ridiculous. Now, coal, there's different types of coal, but Australia has very good quality coal, and according to various assessments, the amount of coal Australia has could provide the entire planet with coal for electricity generation for more than 100 years. So for more than 100 years, just the coal from Australia. That's before you start looking at coal in other places like Africa and so on. Now it's not the brown coal; it's the good quality coal, which produces the least CO2 and general pollution compared to the other coal. Say that the coal occurs in China and so on. Now, there's a couple of things about coal. Europe has, certainly Western Europe's mostly exhausted its coal supplies. It's not that they don't have coal anymore. They've got to go so deep underground to get it that the cost of digging it out is high. So alternative sources of energy start to stack up economically when the cost of digging the coal out is so high. Now, Australia's a little bit different. Australia's got a lot of surface and near surface coal, and in areas where they can do large open cut mines. So it's quite inexpensive, or relatively inexpensive, to dig the coal out in Australia. So Australia can supply cheap coal and good quality coal to, as I mentioned earlier, to supply the entire world. Yet somehow countries like Australia are meant to not use coal or not burn coal. Now, Australia produces around 1% of CO2 emissions in the world, assuming that's even a pollutant, but produce about 1%. So if Australia shut down tomorrow, it wouldn't make any difference to the world climate, and experts have admitted as much. So really there's no point in the Western world moving away from coal and gas and oil, or certainly not coal anyway, given there is so much good quality coal that can be extracted cheaply. So now it'd be different if the technology existed today to generate electricity that was as cheap as or cheaper than coal. Then there wouldn't be anything to talk about. We'd all be using it, and coal would no longer be the energy source of choice. But until such technology comes along, and to my knowledge, it's not even close. Until such technology comes along, other than nuclear power, until that technology comes along, then coal is a great way to generate electricity. It's affordable. It's something that generates good quality baseload power, and so on. So this is something that you think we'd be debating, and now no one's going to say, well, look, we've got a new technology here, and it's cheaper than coal, and no one's going to dispute that. That's a great idea, and let's all go with it. But there is no such technology, and it's not even close, as I understand it, to existing. Or if it does exist to produce electricity cheaper than coal can, then no one seems to be aware of it, or no one seems to be talking about it. So, but as soon as it comes along, fine. Now that could be tomorrow, it could be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I don't know how long it'll be before that technology comes along. I'm one of the ones that's quite confident that technology will come along at some point, and we just don't know when. But I'm sure it'll come along within the next 50 years. And then at that point we can all give up using coal. But for some reason, the globalists are really fixated on going to alternative energy. Now, alternative energy that's expensive, it's inefficient, it's an eyesore in all the environments where it's placed. It offers nothing. There's a lot of government subsidies, so your taxpayer dollars. A lot of government subsidies that go into getting solar and wind and so on, power generation, and a lot of very rich, already very rich and doing very nicely, thank you, investment banks and the like are really creaming the tax dollars out of the Western world for these subsidies, but it's not producing anything of note, and the cost of electricity in purchasing power terms has more than doubled in Australia. Now it's crazy it's happening in Australia, because Australia's got, as I say, one of the biggest suppliers of good quality, cheaply accessible coal in the world, and yet successive Australian governments have been subsidising bullshit power schemes that don't work with solar and wind. So and without the subsidies, nobody would be doing it. So but the technology is improving in terms of, say, the solar panel capture and the energy it can deliver. The technology is improving very slowly, and it needs. I thought there'd be some quantum leaps in that technology by now, but there hasn't. Instead, it's moving ahead with very, very small gradations, and China is producing most of the solar panels, for example, and then the solar panels, when they've outworn their usefulness in 20 to 25 years, then they're themselves creating hazardous waste, which is a problem that is yet to be dealt with. So, but coming back to the globalists, why are they doing this, and why is it uniquely being forced on the West? Why does the white West have to put up with mass migration? Why does the white West have to put up with all this climate change bullshit nonsense? Why does the white West have to put up with their body's politic being taken over by the globalists? The rule of law means virtually nothing. Due legal process has been tracked. It all seems to be leading and pointing to a small elite of people who want to crush the Western white population, and this is just one more device to beat them over the head with, because it makes no economic sense. It makes no sense from an energy perspective or any practical perspective, and they've got to tell the most outrageous lies about the planet's going to end in a few years and so on, and terrify the wits out of the simple-minded in order to get this pushed through. And the media, like a bunch of clapping seals, go along with it. So anyway, that's my take on it. I'll be looking forward to seeing your comments below. You've been with Tassos today and your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.
The media like a bunch of clapping seals.